Good morning. I'm Carrie. I'm at the Dallas International Film Festival with Peter Rosen, the director of A Surprise in Texas. Thank you so much for coming so early on a Sunday morning.
It's not that early, except that party last night didn't get over till about 2 a.m., so I did get 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I'm okay.
Have you had a pretty good time at the festival so far?
Well, I just got here, yesterday afternoon, so far we're fine. Yeah, I mean, we have our big premiere tonight, which is the world premiere, so I'm a little nervous about that because we haven't really shown this film to anybody yet. I mean, it was a sneak preview in Fort Worth on the 6th, but this is the first time we're really showing this film to a large audience.
Sure.
And it's sold out, and it's a big theater, so that makes you a little nervous if you haven't, gotten audience reaction yet.
Sure. So tell us a little bit more about the film.
Well, we shot this in Fort Worth, which is right down the road from here. And every 4 years when they have the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition, I do that show for PBS as a TV show. And we started doing that in 1989, so that was 20 years ago, believe it or not. And I think over that 20-year period we've done four of them. And this was a very unusual year because a blind boy from Japan, a 20-year-old, tied, well, I shouldn't give this away if people haven't seen the film, but it was a tie for first place, and that made the movie much more about him and about this unusual idea that you could be blind and play classical piano. People couldn't really understand that when it was happening. So it sort of transcended the usual, documentary about a competition because it has this whole other element to it. And we're doing, it's sort of gotten a lot of interest because of that.
Now, you won an Emmy for the broadcast of the 8th Van Cliburn
That's right.
competition.
That was the first one in '89. Yeah.
But is this the first competition where it's been kind of a full-out documentary film?
No, it's always a full-out documentary, but usually it goes right to TV because we shoot it in May and June. We edit like crazy because you can end up with 300 hours of stuff. There are 30 people, and you have to shoot everybody because you don't know who the winner is going to be.
Right.
And then there's music for 3 straight weeks, and you have 8 or 9 cameras on that stuff. So you have a huge amount of material, and we usually would edit in June, July, August, deliver it to PBS in September, and they always aired it in September, October. That's been the traditional thing. What happened this year was PBS put the broadcast off for a year. It's not going to air until this coming September.
I see.
September of 2010 rather than 2009, which gave us this really interesting year-long theatrical window, which we're just beginning to exploit now, and to do things with the film and special screenings and things like that because, this is a different case now that we have this extra year.
Right. Well, like you said, this is a Fort Worth-based film, which I like to hear because I'm a TCU alum.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we hire a lot of TCU people. I think they'll be around tonight. We have a crew of about 50 to do this project.
Wow.
And about half of them are TCU film students.
Awesome.
And they cut their teeth on it. I don't know if were you there like 4 years ago when this was
No,
done?
I wasn't.
Okay, because it's almost become a major part of the filmmaking course in school there to work on the Cliburn documentary. And the kids there get a huge amount of experience out of it. Stuff you really wouldn't learn in school about just being on location and being part of a really big project like that.
Right. And now I know the competitors in the competition stay in people's homes during the course of the competition. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think tonight at the screening we're going to have some of the host families are going to come there, and that's always an important part of the story because it's sort of about Texas hospitality, which you know about, and these are the people who give us access to the pianists, and if you kind of play your cards right and they trust you, they let camera crews pretty much live in their homes for 3 weeks, which is something I wouldn't do that necessarily if I were, a host for one of these kids. But they're really nice about it, and they understand the importance of making the documentary. Great.
So, being that this is kind of a Fort Worth film, I mean, is it safe to say that the city kind of plays a bit of a character?
We did that one year. We kind of wanted to show what Texas was like, and also the sort of the real culture gap, because you've got young pianists coming from Russia, China, all over the Far East, all over Europe, Latin America, and in many cases the first time they've ever been to America, and they come to Fort Worth, which is really kind of a Texas cowtown. So I think in the first one we did in '89, the idea of that film was to kind of really show Fort Worth and cowboys and how these kids sort of reacted to the idea of being in Texas, and we had a lot of fun with that. But once you do that once, you can't do it on each one of the films. So it wasn't necessarily something we paid a lot of attention to this last time.
Now it's the world premiere tonight. Was it especially important for that Did you think it was important for that to be at the Dallas Film Festival in particular?
Yeah, you know, it either would have been the festival that the Lone Star Film Society has in Fort Worth, or the one in Dallas. And since we were still editing in November when they had their Fort Worth Film Festival, we didn't really have it in time for that. And Dallas is a much bigger festival, and I think a really good choice for us to premiere this. It's one reason why the film's gotten really a lot of interest, because there are a lot of folks here who've heard of the Clyburn.
Right.
They don't, you know, I found people in Dallas don't necessarily go down to Fort Worth when this is all happening, even though it's one of the big Texas cultural events every 4 years. I mean, if I lived in Dallas, I'd get in my car and I'd go there every day, you know. But I found people in Dallas all know about it. They all know who Van Cliburn is. He's sort of a famous Texas character. Way back from the late 50s when he, you know, came back to America after winning this big Tchaikovsky competition in Russia, which put Van on the map. He's been a major figure in Texas, but and he lives in Fort Worth for most of his career since he came back from that victory. But people in Dallas don't seem to go to the competition. But you know, having this screening tonight and tomorrow night for the Van Cliburn Foundation in Fort Worth is a really good opportunity for them to introduce the competition to the Dallas community, to kind of, you know, meet people here who could be possible, you know, funders for their future competitions, things like that. So they're all excited about that, and most of them will be up here tonight.
All right. And one other thing I wanted to ask, you know, you said that you cover pretty much all the Van Cliburn broadcasts and recordings and things like that. And you also have a lot of other art-related documentaries, you know, especially music-related. Yeah. And you mentioned that you have a lot of TCU students and, you know, students in general that work on these films with you. So, I mean, is arts education something that you're really kind of pushing with this, or
you know, I don't think it's so much arts education, but I do think that the arts are really important. It's been a big part of my career. And as a matter of fact, there's a panel this afternoon that I'm on about, you know, music in films, and things like that really interest me, because to me it's what makes films come alive. It's really what the medium of film is all about. When you're doing something about dance or opera or music, or painting, whatever it might be, it sort of makes, you know, the film come alive, because music is so emotional and carries a whole other message in addition to what you're, you know, seeing with visuals. So I'm personally interested in that kind of filmmaking. Whether, you know, it's a sort of educational, that's sort of not a good word to talk about when you're talking about your film. If you say it's an educational film, nobody wants to see it. You know? It's like what you saw in high school when you had, you know, Physics 101, and you can watch one of those dumb 16mm movies. So the films shouldn't be educational. I mean, I think if people, you know, if we show this film around Texas and around the rest of the country before it airs on TV, and if a handful of people who have never heard Mozart or Beethoven hear this sort of great music in this film and go out and buy some CDs and get into that kind of music as opposed to rap or rock or something, you know, that'd be great. But it's not like the purpose of the film. You know, I remember my daughter was really a major rock and roll person. She knew every group when she was a pre-teenager. And then she saw Amadeus, you know, that movie about Mozart that came out a while ago. And I walked by her room one day and she was listening to Mozart. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Mozart is so cool. You know, he's got frilly shirt and tight velvet suit on. I think he was like a rock star to her." And that got her into, you know, really being interested in classical music. So films can do that. If you can do that, it's great.
I'm a Handel fan myself.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, you mentioned showing the film around Texas, so would you tell everybody some of the places where it's going to be showing?
Okay, yeah. Well, you know, interestingly, as I said, we have this one window now before it goes on PBS in September. So it's going to open on May 14th in Dallas here at the Angelica, in the Rave Theaters in Fort Worth, and at the same time in Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. So if we do well in that Texas opening for a week or two, then we'll take the film to other states, hopefully have a New York, Los Angeles opening. And it's a tricky thing to open a documentary theatrically in America, and you have to kind of think out of the box a little bit. And we had a really good distributor who was the guy who took Spellbound, remember that movie about the spelling bee? Which is a $6 million grossing documentary. It's a tiny little movie that nobody thought could do anything. Michael Tuckman, who's handling our film, took Spellbound and just kind of released it around the country, thinking about where it could work until it built up kind of word of mouth. And we hope to do that with Surprise in Texas, starting right in Texas.
Great. Well, congratulations again on the premiere, and thank you again for being here.
Thanks.